Welcome back to Challenging Torah, or should I say Challenging Torah in Challenging Times. For these certainly are. As we open up the newscast and we hear a few days ago, Israel's troops gathered by the border, unit by unit. Torah Masei B'nai Yisrael. These are the troop gatherings of the children of Israel as directed by their leaders. Okay, it's not really the newscast. That's the beginning of the Torah portion. And the leaders are Moses and Aaron, not BB, but pretty much it's the same action. We're gathered, and it's a military action. And the next words say that they leave B'yad Ramah, with a defiant, upraised hand, as they head, interestingly enough, toward the Gaza border. They're leaving Egypt towards Israel. And God, in this case, is a God who protects them in times of war. And we get an endless description of the places where they park on the way during their 40 years as they march in military fashion through the desert from near the Suez Canal, through Sinai to Gaza, around to the West Bank, and enter from Jordan into the West Bank and into the rest of Israel. Wow, not a lot has changed in these 3,000 years, has it? I always looked at Maaseh as one of those tiny portions, actually, at the very end of the book of Numbers, that says, these are my personal journeys of life, right? How long have I lived in any one place? The Jews had 20 different places, stations that they rested. Have I moved 20 different times if I count apartments that I've lived in? What has been the trajectory of my life? What are my personal journeys? And most importantly, am I there yet? How do I know when I've reached the promised land? Do I need to spend the rest of my life without putting down deep roots, a wandering Jew forever and ever? Ele Maaseh B'nai Yisrael. These are the wanderings, the movements of B'nai Yisrael. And sometimes it's personal. Sometimes it's not about troop movements. But this year, we're all following troop movements very, very closely as Israel is locked into a battle that seems to be a 3,000-year-old battle. I've watched as the people gather together and head toward Gaza, and immediately I am reminded of the Exodus from Egypt, where it's a PR battle from day one. Moses knows that it's not just about what happens on the battlefield, but what the Egyptians think and what the Israelites think in a battle, that they are led by God, directed by their leaders, but what do the other people think? And so Moses, of course, argues with God and says, no, you can't wipe them all out just because of the golden calf. What will the Egyptians think? And God says, they will know that I am the God of Israel. It's PR. We're still doing it. We're still suffering from the fact that we don't like the world press. This is not a new story. It's so, I want to say sad, but it's more than sad. It makes us realize that we are in the end of a long battle that has, it appears, no end. And so Aaron, in the middle of this Torah portion, Aaron dies. And he's known as the peacemaker. And I couldn't help but think, in a week where I saw first the horror of finding these kidnapped children murdered, and then an even greater horrible response of Jewish zealots who were willing to pour kerosene on an Arab child in revenge and burn him to death. And where is the peacemaker? And the atmosphere in a country that allowed for the death of Rabin, you felt that atmosphere was back. Aaron's the peacemaker, Aaron dies. Rabin was the peacemaker, Rabin died, and we are still on the journey. Some of the most problematic words in all of Torah, for me, are in this Torah portion. We'd like to look at them as ancient history. When you cross the Jordan to enter the land of Canaan, you shall dispossess all of the inhabitants of the land. Yep, it's true. It's written in this week's Torah portion. And so I asked myself, is a 3,000-year-old deed a deed? In order to help answer that question for myself, I went on a tour sponsored by the Yesha Council, which is the Council of Settlers. Wanted to see their opinion and their lives, and the Hartman made that possible. And we were in various small outposts. We were in a winery. We were in a big place called Ariel that looks like a city, is a city, with a university. And we were in little outposts, out very close to Jordan, actually. And the bottom line, when I was in a lunch time with the head of the Yesha Council, was one-state solution. No, a one-state solution that denies the Palestinians any claim to this land, but will open up our checkpoints and make life easier for them. Annex the West Bank is their message. And I came back that night to Jerusalem, and there were Arab riots in northern Israel, and the rockets were happening in the south, and I thought, is this an endless Middle Eastern tribal warfare that we're just another chapter? It's very difficult at this moment in time. Things seem dark. And I look for what we call a nechemta, a consolation. And I open up to Jeremiah, who is the Haftorah for this week. And there I find it, matched to this Torah portion. And it says, I accounted to you the favor of your love as a bride, God is saying to the people of Israel. How you followed me into the wilderness in a land not sown. You were faithful, God says. I haven't left you. And then the beautiful end of this Haftorah says, and the Lord, as I live, declares, nations will bless themselves after you by your sincerity, by your justice, and by your righteousness. Torah Masei, this is the journey from the promise to the fulfillment. My hope, my prayer, is that this is the time of fulfillment. It's that the Maaseh, the journey, is so difficult in between. Please join me Saturday morning. We will continue this lively discussion as we look at Israel and the Middle East. Shabbat Shalom.